Hello, my name is Ryan, and you are listening to the CrimeCast. In this show, we will be talking about true crime cases, unsolved mysteries, and cryptid creatures from all over the world, from the mountains of the Himalayas to the suburbs of Los Angeles. In our 7th episode, we will be going back to my first episode and revisiting the Cecil Hotel. But instead of talking about its hauntings, we will be looking into the most famous case in video of Elisa Lam, who went missing while staying at the hotel, later being found by a hotel worker on the roof in one of the water tanks. I will be saying this now. If you're not into hearing about mental health, please either skip this episode completely or go to another section in the time cards below. Also, linked in the description is going to be the original elevator footage released by, I believe by CNN. So if you want to watch that, go right ahead, even though it will be in this video. But with that out of the way, let's revisit the Cecil Hotel. The Cecil Hotel. Located in the heart of downtown Los Angeles, California, this hotel, now renamed the Stay on Main, is an affordable housing complex that is mostly home to people from an area called Skid Row. If you want to know more of the history of the Cecil Hotel, please go check out the first episode, but this is just a little snippet. But during its heyday, it was a destinational hotel for international businessmen and the socially elite, so like the higher class people. But once the Great Depression hit, it would become what we know as today. Before we get started real quick, I want to say Elisa wasn't the only cold case at the Cecil. Goldie Osgood, a local woman, would be found dead in her room. And also it is believed that the Black Dahlia, Elizabeth Short, had stayed at the hotel before she was murdered on January 15th, 1947. Now, with those two cases out of the way, let's talk about who was Elisa Lam. Elisa, also known as Lam Huyi, which is her Chinese name, was born on April 30th, 1991 to David and Yan Lam. Her parents were immigrants from Hong Kong and would move to Burn Bay, British Columbia, which is in Canada. Very sorry if I pronounced those names wrong or the locations wrong, and would open up a restaurant there. Elisa also had a sister named Sarah, but other than that, not much is known about her early life. We start finding out more information about her during her college years. Elisa would attend the University Hill Secondary High School and the University of British Columbia. During her free time, Elisa had created a blog on Blogspot called Ether Fields in the mid-2010s. In mid-2010, sorry. On her blog for the next 2 years, she would post pictures of models in fashionable clothing, accounts of her personal life, but mainly about her struggles with her mental health, which we'll get into later on. January 2012, Elisa would state on her blog that a relapse at the start of the school year would force her to drop several of her classes. This left Elisa feeling, quote, so utterly directionless and lost, end quote. She would title this post after a quotation from novelist Chuck Palahniuk, quote, you're always haunted by the idea you're wasting your time, end quote. And this author, she would actually title many of her blog posts from quotes of his books and stuff like that. During this time, Lisa had become worried about her transcripts. She thought that due to the many withdrawals, it would look suspicious. This would result in her being unable to continue her studies and attend graduate school. 2 years later, Elisa announced that she would be abandoning her current blog for another. She would then start a blog on Tumblr called, quote, Nouvelle Nouveau, end quote. Very sorry if I mispronounced that. And just like her previous blog, Elisa would post fashion photos, quotes, and a few posts in her own words, which is basically like every Tumblr girl posting like fan fiction shit. No fan art that are very concerning. The MOP fan art be like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna shut up now. I went down a Tumblr rabbit hole, seeing if maybe her Tumblr was still active, and I went down a rabbit hole I did not enjoy. I saw stuff. I'm gonna get off that tangent now. Now let's talk about Elisa Lam's mental health. Elisa had been diagnosed with both bipolar depression and bipolar disorder and depression. She had been prescribed with several medications for her mental health. According to her family, who also reportedly kept Elisa's mental health private, their daughter had no history of suicidal ideas or attempts. One report claimed that she had, at one point, gone missing for a brief period of time and also had a history of not taking her bipolar medications. So, on several occasions, she had suffered from hallucinations, causing her to hide under her bed for refuge at one point, and also was hospitalized for one of these episodes. So her mental health was a very big problem for her, as just stated right there, and why she probably talked about it a lot, because she dealt with it so much in her life, with not taking her medications, the hallucinations, all of that. Now, after talking about her early life, let's get into her solo trip to California. Elisa wanted to, for the longest time, go on a solo trip. Just to anywhere in the world, really. So, in 2013, she would go on a solo trip down the West Coast. Her parents, even though they didn't 100% agree with her going to California by herself, would allow her to go, but on one condition. She would make sure to check with her parents every day of her trip, just, to make sure that she's safe and all. During her trip, Elisa traveled by both Amtrak and intercity buses, so she just traveled by buses and trains, no cars, no nothing. January 26th is when Elisa would arrive in Los Angeles, and 2 days later she would have checked into the Cecil Hotel. At first, Elisa had been assigned a shared room, like a hostel type situation, which I think it was, because that's what the Cecil had at the time, single hotel rooms and hostels, and of course, the apartments on the 5th floor of the hotel. But her roommates had started to complain, with the hotel's lawyer saying later, quote, certain odd behavior, end quote. And just 2 days after checking in to that room, she would move into her own room. Amy Price, the manager at the time, would state that Elisa was leaving notes for her roommates. These notes would say things such as go home and go away. She even at one point locked the door to the room and required a password for entry, but of course only Elisa knew the password because she was the one that locked the door on them. After moving rooms a few days prior to her disappearance, Elisa would attend a live taping of the Conan talk show in Burbank, California. While there, Elisa was escorted off the property due to disruptive behavior by security. So there were already early signs that something wasn't right with Elisa, maybe that she wasn't taking her medications. Either way, this is when her disappearance would take place. Disappearance. January 31st, Lam would be scheduled to check out of the hotel and leave for Santa Cruz. But once her parents never heard from her, they would call the Los Angeles Police Department, or LAPD, which I will be referring to them for the rest of the podcast. Anyways, once contacting the LAPD, the family would come down to LA to help look for Elisa. Hotel staff who had seen Lam would say that she was alone and not traveling with anyone else. Kate Ophar, the manager of the last bookstore located outside of the hotel, would recall seeing her that day. Orpha would say, quote, she was outgoing, very lively, very friendly, end quote. while she was getting gifts for her family. While being interviewed by CNN, Oprah would say, quote, she was talking about what book she was getting and whether or not what she was getting would be too heavy for her to carry around as she traveled, end quote. But during this time, LAPD would search the hotel, but according to the Wikipedia page, they, quote, searched the hotel to the extent that they legally could, end quote. So that means they couldn't really barge into everyone's hotel room unless given permission and stuff. So just to let you know, by searching the hotel, it was to the extent that they possibly could, which makes sense, it's an investigation, but until they actually can find if this was a crime, they couldn't go into some random ass person's hotel room, just to let you guys know. And they would search Lam's room. After searching the hotel, dogs would be brought in. The dogs would search the whole hotel, including the hotel's rooftop, which later Elisa Lam would be found on. I think it's in, yeah. Would have no success finding her scent. Sergeant Rudy Lopez later said, quote, but we didn't search every room. We could only do that if we had a probable cause, end quote. And the probable cause for the LAPD to believe that a crime had been committed. Also during their search, police would find all of Lam's belongings in her room. So she didn't leave the hotel, or really, it's not like she left the hotel. Left her room, sorry. But she may have, left for the day and hasn't come back. There's a lot of gaps and shit in this investigation. Like there isn't any investigation. And it was February 6th. A week after Lam has last been seen, LAPD decided that they needed more help. Missing flyers with Elisa's image/information would be posted in the neighborhoods and online. These flyers would bring the Elisa Lam case, as it was seen at the time, to the public's attention and also media attention. So now the media is covering, the public is covering it. And after that, the famous elevator footage would be released. So for this duration of the podcast, I will be playing the elevator footage. The famous elevator footage would be released on February 13th. 2 weeks after Lam's disappearance, and a week after the flyers had been posted, LAPD would release a video. This video is the last known footage/sighting of Lam. This video was taken by the video surveillance cameras in the hotel's elevator on January 31st, and it is approximately 2.5 minutes long, showing Lam only in the elevator. So she was the only one in the elevator for these 2.5 minutes. She was making unusual moves and gestures as if she was talking to someone, and we couldn't see that person. It seemed that Elisa had pressed every button on the panel. Then she is seen peering into the hallway and then leaves. While she's in the hallway, from what we can see in the video, it looks like she's once again talking to someone, making these weird hand gestures again. Many people at the time believed that maybe there was someone outside of the elevator she was talking to, but we couldn't see them. During her time outside of the elevator doors would never close, which people found very strange because, after maybe 10 seconds to 20 seconds, those doors, fully close. Lam would return to the elevator even after the doors didn't close. So even when she steps back in the elevator, the doors never fully closed. They just remained open. It's as if she pressed that, the one button on the panel that's open up. It's like she pressed that and it locked up or something. Anyways, after a couple of seconds, Elisa would leave the elevator and the doors would finally close, and it didn't seem that there was any malfunction then. After the video was released, it drew worldwide interest in the Elisa Lam case due to her strange behavior. This video would be extensively analyzed and discussed, by videographers and stuff. This video would then be reposted multiple times, even reaching the Chinese video sharing site Youku, I believe. Within the first 10 days, the video would have a total of 3 million views and 40,000 comments, with many of the comments saying how they found it unsettling to watch. And if you did find it very unsettling to watch for me oh my god, I just realized I recorded this segment in 2.5 minutes. Oh, that's creepy, holy shit. Anyways, let's talk about what happened once they discovered her body. During the investigation period, guests staying at the hotel would begin complaining about how low the water pressure was, with some guests even complaining that the water would come out black before returning to normal, and that there was a weird taste coming from their tap water. So on February 19th, 2 weeks after the infamous video was released and 4 weeks after Elisa's disappearance, the hotel would send up a maintenance worker, Santiago Lopez, to the rooftop to check the hotel's 4 water tanks. Now there, like I said, is a total of 4 water tanks on the hotel, each holding around 1,000 gallons of water and around 4 feet by 8 feet tall. I think 4 feet tall by 8 feet wide. I forgot which one. Anyways, once Santiago opened the one tank, he noticed a body, which would be identified as Lam's. Now Elisa was laying face up in the water. To be able to get her out of this tank, they actually had to drain out the water and cut into it just to get her out. According to court documents, Santiago would state, quote, "I noticed the hatch to the main water tank was open and looked inside and saw an Asian woman laying face up in the water approximately 12 inches from the top of the tank," unquote. As stated previous, the police and canine units had searched the rooftop, but no one made an effort into looking into the water tanks because they're like, no one can get into those water tanks, no one can get into it, no one can close it. Because when they go up there, the hatch is closed. There's no way you can go up there and close that. And yeah. February 21st, the LA Coroner's Office would issue a finding that it was an accidental drowning and that Lam's bipolar disorder was a significant factor in her death. It wouldn't be until June of that year that the coroner's office would release their full report. They stated that Lam's body was found naked, with the same clothes as she was wearing in the elevator video floating next to her, and coated with a, quote, sand-like particule, I believe that's the word, unquote. In the end, Elisa Lam's death would be ruled as accidental due to her withdrawal from her bipolar medications. LAPD detective Wallace Tinnell would tell the lawyer of the hotel, quote, "My opinion," quote, "my opinion is that she fell off her medication, and in her state, she happened to find her way onto the roof, got into the tank of the water. At the time, I think the water was maybe full, but as people used water, unknowing to her, the level was dropping to a point where she could no longer reach out and escape, and she died that way," end quote. So, in the end, Elisa's death was an accidental drowning, and that she somehow got into the water tank herself while closing the hatch. Yeah, it's very strange. So, after this was released, people decided, let's come up with our theories of how she actually died. These are the 2 most popular theories of her death. The first theory actually happened after the elevator video surfaced. Theories would start almost immediately after this video surfaced, of course. And that theory was, Elisa was playing the elevator game. The elevator game, also known as the elevator ritual, elevator to another world, and also elevator to hell, so many different names, is believed to have originated in an East Asian country, many people believing it was either South Korea or Japan, and if played and / performed correctly, it will bring the player to another world. I will leave a link in the description to the rules of the elevator game, which is something I should not do, but just in case you want to know the rules, there you go. Many people believe that Lam had succeeded with the game and was unable to leave the other world and had somehow managed to make her way into the tank while in the other world. The second theory, this one seems to be the most popular, seeing that somehow the water tank had been closed, and also her strange behavior while in the elevator, and also her actions seem to show that someone was following her and that she was being followed and such. That theory doesn't have the most evidence to it, but anyways, to this day we are still unsure of how Elisa Lam got into the tank and how she officially died. Was she playing the elevator game and managed to enter this different world, the other world? Did she die due to not taking her medications or getting off of them? Or did someone kill her or was following her and killed her at the tank? So all those questions are still unanswered, and it's kind of weird that even today that is still unanswered. How did she get into the tank? I think many people are like, oh, maybe she did die, but it's also, how did she get into the tank? How did she close the hatch to the tank and, drown? Stuff like that. Anyways, let's talk about our 8th episode, which will be the tragic death of Princess Diana, or the People's Princess. We'll talk about the timeline of the events before and after her death, and looking into some of the theories that have popped up after her death. Because this is such a controversial topic, I'm not going to go into all of the theories, but I think the two most important ones to me is that it was a car accident, that it was the driver's fault, and maybe the paparazzi. Well, I'm not sure which ones now. I don't want to get into that really in this, but if you want to just watch the 8th episode, just watch it. My name is Ryan, and you've listened to the CrimeCast.